half of their trucks.
Well over half.
Had to get recalled for transmission.
And so
the big three, by doing this, they're trying to get people to come back to their models, right? And I think one thing that they're doing is they're playing on tried and true names.
Yeah.
Which, okay, but they're doing it without really any other improvements outside of the name. And I say that because, the reliability on the big three, Ford and Chevy and Chrysler, Dodge, they've been terrible.
Yeah.
Since right at the pandemic, 2019 to current day, absolutely terrible. I mean, we're going to go through all three of the manufacturers here real quick, but Ford, and I'm not placating to say I'm one over the other, but Ford, these are all news, led all manufacturers in 2023 with 54 recalls. That's the third year in a row
54
that they've led in that category. They've led in recalls for 3 years in a row.
Now, we used to know that Ford had a test track. Ford used to have test drivers. Ford went out and beat their cars up, and they drove them hard, and they drove them good. And this is something that is frustrating to me as a consumer, that we are now the test pilots for cell phones, for everything that's mass produced and shoved out to us before it's properly tested. That we are now buying these cars, which people are buying them to get to and from work.
Yeah.
And then this thing is brand new. You're expecting, hey, I've got 7 years of not worrying about anything but an oil change.
You would think so. So they're one of their most popular motors, their EcoBoost. And then so here's the issues: are EcoBoost engines, their transmission failures, and the F-150 axle problems. Bryce just put that logo, that image back up. There you go. 90,000 vehicles affected with their 2.7, 3 liter EcoBoost engines. Wow. Those are all their commuter type, those aren't high performance engines.
No, this is just mom and pop driving around, getting to work.
They're in a lot of vehicles, these EcoBoost motors.
And so rental cars or the family inconvenience, or how long are we waiting on parts? We talked the other day about some EV guys that are doing these cars. They're waiting months for parts. We probably aren't doing any better on the ICE engines and the drive lines that are traditional. And we just, how are people able to do this? This is kind of, not cool. It's not cool. It's not okay.
It's not. And then the transmission failures. And I have some news articles. I don't know if I have the Ford one or not.
Yeah. Is it this one here?
Yeah, there we go. Ford and Lincoln recalling nearly 91,000 models of their 2.7 and 3 liter. This is their EcoBoost.
Right.
Recall affects 21 to 22 models with those engines, including the F-150, the Bronco, Explorer, and the Edge. I mean, those are all their top sellers. The Lincoln Aviator, Nautilus are affected as well. So Lincoln's, Ford says the issue involves faulty engine intake valves that may fracture and fall into the combustion chamber, causing catastrophic failure.
Wow. Now, man, I'm not even going to go into the other story that I know you've got lined up here in a bit, but it frustrates me that you can buy a standard base model, non-horsepower, non-try to race anything, whatever, go out there, drive it, be doing normal stuff and have it just come apart because of lack of testing on their new design.
Yeah.
They used to say, Bryce, it was always a thing about don't buy a first-year model because it just was too new and not right. We didn't know enough about it. So don't be the guinea pig.
And the EcoBoost have been out for a while.
Yeah.
They're not new.
They started with cylinder drops.
It's been out for a while, and it was also in the Ford GT that they were running at Le Mans. So that thing was at maximum capacity for 24 hours straight. That was the whole reason for Le Mans in the beginning, decades and decades ago, was it was manufacturers proving that their design could hold up over running it hard for 24 hours straight.
Like Honda at Indy. I remember them building and testing and doing so.
Well, and I'm not a NASCAR fan by any stretch of the imagination. My dad is, and I remember growing up and him watching NASCAR and all that. But wasn't the old adage, win on Sunday, sell on Monday?
That's absolutely
because they were
right.
a stock car.
Absolutely.
And back in the day, they were the car that you could go to the showroom floor and you could buy. So much to your Le Mans, story there. I think it was the kind of the same thing for the Americans, right? You know, you had your NASCAR, you'd see them like, hey, I need that Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
Thing was awesome. It won on Sunday, right? So.
Yeah, and sports car racing is getting back to that. The lower classes now are very close to what you can go and buy.
Good.
They're homologated. They have a couple of, transmission and brake changes, but it's the car.
But we're into 8 and 9 speed automatic transmissions now. I mean, I sit there with these new Corvettes and I drive them and you can't feel them shift until you're into 5th gear.
Yeah.
They're so smooth. I love Lucy, my Nova. She throws you back in 2nd gear every time. But when Tyler built the transmission for me, I said, I want to crush your 2nd gear.
Yeah.
And every time you
feel it when it comes out of first.
And I just love it. That's my thing.
Yeah. I mean, that was some Ford issues. Here's Chevy's. Not much different. Chevy transmission issues. Most recently, nearly 500,000 pickup trucks and SUVs. General Motors on Wednesday said, now this is from November 13th, so just a couple of days ago. General Motors said on Wednesday it was recalling 462,000 diesel engine and SUVs and pickups because of a faulty transmission control valve that may fail and cause the rear wheels to lock up, increasing the risk of a crash. 2020-22 Chevy Silverado, 2020 GMC Sierras, and Cadillac Escalades, Tahoes, Suburbans, Yukons.
Oh my gosh.
And that was for their diesel ones, right? But they also had a recall of 450,000 trucks for transmission issues for their other ones, their gas-powered ones. And they sold 450,000 trucks.
Yeah.
Guess how many they sold in 2023?
I mean, I'd hope, I guess a couple million, right?
Yeah, 754,000. So over half of their trucks.
Well over half.
Had to get recalled for transmission.
And so what are they doing to upgrade this? Have they come up with a fix? Or have they been massively producing these since they look, it starts out with a TSB. Before a recall happens, they start out with a TSB, which is called a Technical Service Bulletin. And this is something that you all as a consumer don't really hear lots about. But we start as a business, as a shop, Dolphin Auto, we start to get notifications about these technical service bulletins through our software that we pay for to help us analyze and fix your cars. So this is something that we learn about early on. And as the protocol gains momentum from the consumer that this is not just a bulletin anymore, it becomes a recall. And then notices go out to the consumers and you hear about it on your morning news, which is where I hear most of the stuff about recalls, and then come in the shop and look at it and sure as heck, man. We've seen some atrocious ones, but I wonder how long in advance does the manufacturer know that they're going to have to go to a recall? How much production are they doing before it? Because when you get your recall, you call in the first one, and you get in the queue. Otherwise, you're waiting months. Maybe yours hasn't been effective yet. Now you're driving it differently. Gingerly, you feel it. Oh no, am I something? But you've got to get in that queue for that recall, or else the wait time could just.
And a lot of these recalls, outside of like the mechanical ones, but a lot of these recalls are software related.
Yeah,
there's electrical problems, fuel system problems. Chevy engines. This hit the headlines of one of their reasons for recalls: head gasket and engine failures. They're blowing head gaskets.
And in today's world, multi-layer gaskets, all the technology, you're doing everything else. I mean, you can rev these things harder. The tolerances are tighter. So to have that kind of failure in something that is as common as a head gasket and head bolts.
Yeah. I know a lot of the Ford recalls were software related. There's tons of software related because most of these cars are just you're driving a computer. Well, now same with Chevy.
Yeah, the timing is based off computer stats and everything else. There's no more distributor camshaft reading and all these things.
It's really cool. I have a friend who has a Tesla, one of the SUV ones. I don't know. I was talking to him about his Tesla. So, recalls. They had like 12,000 Teslas recalled recently. It was a software issue. Okay. He's like, what's cool about those with Teslas at least?
They don't have engine failures.
You don't. Well, you don't have to take it in for the recall. It's all over the air.
Yeah.
Oh,
they do the updates. They do the updates remotely.
Yeah. I didn't know that. Okay. But getting back on top of here. So can't leave out old Mopar, Chrysler Dodge, right? So they had the second most recalls in 2023, 45. And they, in my personal opinion, since Stellantis bought them in 2021, they just been junk. And I drive a Ram. I'm a Ram guy. I'm a Mopar guy. I've driven a Ram since 1997.
Yeah. Now Ram became its own company.
They are their own company.
In the 2000s,
thankfully that did solve a lot of Ram truck problems, in my opinion. Like I said, I've had a Ram since 1997. Starting in 97, I had the early 2000s. I have a 2017 now.
Right, but I think when you break it away and you let it become its own, something you can look at it better.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I think their trucks were a lot better. But this is affecting their trucks because they're having engine issues. Well, and maybe not so much all in their pickups, but Dodge in their cars. Those Hurricane engines have been just crap. They've been recalled, tons of them, tons of software bugs. Most of the Stellantis ones, and I think I have a service bulletin or a notice of what the customers are getting from Ram, and it was all about the 1500s powertrain control module software updates.
Yeah. Now you wonder that's something they got to go in and reload a software update on, as where Tesla, you're saying, is doing it all remotely. I know that there's a lot of telecommunications goes through that you can do. You know, my Spectrum cable, they send a signal to my router and stuff. I wonder how long before these all look at that and start saying we need to be able to communicate with your car off lot and do an automated updates and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the thing with new cars as well. So it's good. Because all new cars since I think 2019 are now gateway service enabled.
Okay,
so they communicate, with this kind of leads us into the 10 hat section.
It almost does.
Before we leave this one, can I talk about the controversial elephant in the room for a second?
I love controversy.
Elephant or donkey.
Donkey. Because we are now a few years into what can be called the get woke, go broke era.
Okay.
And there's a guy named Robbie Starbuck who's been going through these American companies, Harley Davidson included, and exposing the kind of woke nonsense that's been going on. And then one of the tenets of what the woke pushes for is hiring people based on identity, especially ethnic identity or group identity, rather than merit.
Right.
And I know this is real because I've sat and watched a corporate training that literally said, if you're hiring people based on merit, that's wrong and you shouldn't do it. Do you think that maybe when you got all these different companies having systemic problems like this, that might be an element?
Yes.
You can't rule it out. I mean, that I think it's so many things that lead.
I think I saw
that have to lead up for it to go so bad.
I think I saw
for all three, the big threes, to just go so bad.
Yeah, our new Vice President Vance, he came out on the podium one day and said, "I'm going to get in trouble in the next 4 years trying to be so politically correct. We've got to kind of cut back on this and pull back on it and get back to communicating and letting things just be the way they are. Sometimes things aren't pretty. Sometimes things are ugly. You got to put it as that. You can't always just put lipstick on a pig and make it better."